Time now for the Week 10 Over-Under Challenge. As always, this segment is presented by DraftKings, and I'm joined by Colin Cowherd to talk through some of our favorite player picks on this week's slate. We'll jump right in, but first I want to remind everyone listening that you can play along with our Over-Under Challenge and try to not only beat Colin, but win some cool prizes as well by heading to FantasyPros.com/challenge. All right, we'll start with the quarterbacks as usual. Sam Darnold obviously had a much better season than a lot of people had expected with Minnesota. He's at Jacksonville this week. QB 12 on the season on DraftKings, scoring 17.9 fantasy points per game. He was QB 4 in week 2, but has not been better than QB 9 since. So maybe a little bit recently. He's facing this Jags pass defense. What do you expect?
I think Sam's going to play well. I worry that because they have so many big divisional games coming up, it could be a letdown game. But with Mac Jones potentially slated to play, you know what that means. Shorter drives for Jacksonville, more possessions for Sam Darnold, probably better field position for Sam Darnold. I tend to look at that a lot, and I'm not sure if you guys, the fantasy experts, do. But when you face a weak quarterback, I think your skill people tend to get better field position. That means usually a little more aggressive offensive play calling. I think this game will be decided by the Vikings defense against Mac Jones, but I think Darnold will play well and have time to throw.
Yeah, it's funny. You often hear people say like, oh, this is going to be a blowout, so they're not going to have to, throw the ball that much late. But if it's a blowout, they're scoring points early to get to that point. So there will be scoring, you would think. And like you said, more opportunities, shorter fields as well. So I like that thought process. The other quarterback that we have here for this week's slate, Kyler Murray going up against the Jets. Not an easy matchup, at least in terms of the fantasy scoring, certainly on paper. Kyler's QB 14, a little over 17 points per game this season. But it's been a lot of like boom or bust potential. He was QB 1 in week 2. He was QB 30 in week 9. So he's kind of hit both ends of the spectrum at various points this season. This pass defense for the Jets, allowing 6.4 yards per attempt, tied 4th best in the NFL. Quarterbacks are averaging 24 yards rushing on 4.8 yards per carry against the Jets as well. Obviously, something might come into play for Kyler. What do you expect out of the Cardinals in this one?
This is kind of a stay away game for me. Jets played on Thursday, so as you know, they have extra time. I like their defensive personnel. Arizona's on a winning streak. You talk about a team that I don't trust their maturity. Many of their best players are kids, and Kyler's not, but I always feel there's some leadership maturity issues with him. I don't trust this team to go on long winning streaks. They've been playing well, but they've also been a team like against Miami that falls behind and falls asleep. It is a stay away game. Stay away from Kyler for me.
Let's look at some running backs here. Jonathan Taylor going up against the Buffalo Bills. He was RB8 so far on the season on DraftKings, 15 points per game. That's a bit lower since returning from injury. He's had some big games as well, kind of boom or bust also. He was RB4 in week 3, RB37 in week 9, but he's going up against this Bills run defense, allowing 4.8 yards per carry.
I love Taylor this week. I think the Colts upset the Bills. I think Miami's off a highly emotional win against Miami. I think they come in flat. They've got that division wrapped up, right? Buffalo, you could see them flying to the Midwest, not a divisional game, off a big rival, let down emotionally. And, the Colts still believe with Flacco, they can win this division, right? They still feel they got a shot here. This feels like a much bigger game against a high-profile team in Buffalo. I like Taylor. I like the Colts in my upset of the week.
That's a great call. I don't know that I've heard a lot of people pick this as a possible upset. It's a pretty consensus, everybody's siding with the Bills, just given, what we've seen from them and, the poor Flacco performance last week. But I love that call. I think that's great. The other running back we have here, J.K. Dobbins going up against the Titans, RB12 this season. J.K. Dobbins, he was going in like round 15 in fantasy drafts. So has been a real value for everybody who invested in him, over 13.5 fantasy points per game so far this season. He's finished as high as RB4 a couple of different times. He's been in the 30s a couple of times as well, but that's kind of the nature of the position at running back. Facing this Titans run defense, allowing 4.4 yards per carry. That's 10th best in the NFL. Really hot start for J.K. Dobbins this year, then a bit of a down period. Had a good game last week. What do you think we see out of him this week?
It's a stay away for me. The Chargers are now healthy at wide receiver for the first time this year. They had a really nice performance last week against Cleveland. And I think I'm really struggling with this game. I think they win. I also think they love the fact that they're healthy on the perimeter, and I think they want to use that to their advantage. And I also believe they'll have some success running the ball. But Tennessee's a weird team. Take out the Lions game. They can be formidable in the trenches at times. They're a team that I don't think is poorly coached. I think they're mostly poorly quarterbacked. So this is a stay away game for me. I think the Chargers are healthy, and I think they're going to spread the ball around to a lot of different sources this week. If you watch that Cleveland game, boy, everybody got touches. Hurst, Disley, Quentin Johnston, McConkey, the kid out of Georgia.
Yeah.
They really spread the ball around. Palmer. So I feel like they want to put this on tape for the league to see. We've got a lot of elements. We're going to use all of them. They're going to move Justin Herbert in some running situations. So it's a stay away game for their run game.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you kind of what we've seen from the Chargers passing game recently, because there was a lot of concern from fantasy managers, especially that Greg Roman offense, Jim Harbaugh, they don't have the best pass catchers. So a lot of people expected this to be a very run heavy offense, and it kind of was early in the year. Not only the pass catchers getting healthy, Herbert wasn't fully healthy, right? In August, he missed a lot of the preseason, but they're throwing more, and Herbert looks really good while doing it. Do you think there's any one piece that has kind of led to them being willing to open up the passing playbook more, or is it really just kind of everybody getting healthy?
I think it's Herbert's health, and I think it's Quentin Johnston, who was viewed as a bust last year. And I think Harbaugh looked at that and thought, I'm going to save this kid. And they really have. When he's been healthy this year, he's had a couple of big games. I also think, strangely, they become the Chiefs. We love their coach. We love their quarterback. They're not quite consistent on the perimeter. Excellent pass rush. Well-coached defensively. Some really nice young defensive players with kind of a veteran, a Chris Jones, Khalil Mack, Bosa on the defensive line. I think they match up with Kansas City. I think they are Kansas City. Coach, quarterback, pass rush, little light on the weapons, trying to figure out their pass game. I like the Chargers, and I think when you're trying to figure out who you are, you experiment, you mix the ball around, and I don't think any one player is going to get. I don't think J.K. Dobbins is getting 24 carries.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with their defense. I'm glad you touched on that. I think Jesse Minter is really impressive.
Really good.
Yeah, he's very good. A couple of wide receivers here we'll wrap up with. Terry McLaurin against the Steelers. This is an offense that has been extremely successful with the Commanders and Jaden Daniels going up against one of the best defenses in football. McLaurin is wide receiver 13 on the season in scoring on DraftKings. But again, facing the Steelers defense, who do you think kind of comes out on top? This great Commanders offense or the Steelers defense that's so stingy?
Steelers defense, best defense. Washington's face. They bring in Preston Smith, so now they have two very strong pass rushers. I think this is a little bit of an awakening for Washington, facing a veteran, physical, well-coached team. Mike Tomlin's the best underdog coach in this league, and there's no question. They feel ignored. They feel, the Russell Wilson things, an eye roll. I think Pittsburgh's going to play the game of the year. And I think this is going to be a handful. I think the defensive line for the Steelers controls the entire football game.
Last receiver here, Ceedee Lamb. Obviously, some degree of question mark about his health. No question about Dak Prescott's health. He's not going to play in this one. It's going to be Cooper Rush going up against the Eagles. Lamb is wide receiver 6 on DraftKings this season. Like all receivers, some up and down, bit of a roller coaster season. Some wide receiver 50s, some wide receiver 1 finishes. But going up against this Eagles defense, allowing 10.7 yards per catch. That's 10th in the NFL. 8 touchdowns, only tied for 5th in the NFL. So, again, it's kind of hard to say you're going to expect too much out of Lamb when Dak Prescott isn't at quarterback, but he's also really good. So if he's healthy going up against his defense, what do you make of it?
I would take Ceedee Lamb. They're going to trail. And if you're a backup quarterback and you come in, what are you going to do? You're going to feed the star.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to go to the safest route for you to succeed. I think Ceedee's going to have a good game, and I think they're going to trail. And the only thing I worry about Dallas is that the Eagles will control time of possession. And I'm not sure, is Dallas going to be watching most of this game from the sideline, Cooper Rush? But I think Cooper Rush is efficient. I think he doesn't turn it over a lot. I don't think there's a huge gap, him and Dak. Dak's better, but it's not like, Mahomes and Carson Wentz, or Josh Johnson and Lamar Jackson. I think the gap is a point. So I think Ceedee Lamb will eat.
Yeah, how do you keep your backup quarterback job? You throw to the superstar. That's
right.
Job number one.
Don't overthink the room.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to head to fantasypros.com/challenge to play along all season long. Thanks, Colin. Good luck in week 10.
All right, thanks.